Hello, in this video I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use Google Scholar. If you're new to Google Scholar, then pay attention and hopefully this will be helpful to you. If you've used it before, then perhaps a few of the tricks that I show you might be useful for you. So what I did here is I just went to Google, and because I have a Gmail account, that shows up, and if I just go over to more here, and I can see right there is Scholar. And so there I am. Before I actually start searching for anything, I'm just going to show you a few preferences that I like to use. And so if you go over here to the Scholar preferences and you click on that, you'll see a few things. One is, and I've already done this, therefore it already shows Mercer, is that you can have a library linked to this. So in this case, I have Mercer, but I used to go to Yukon, and so if I wanted to add Yukon to it, I could just have it search for Yukon, and then I could select whichever ones I want. So because I've already done Mercer, the Mercer one is going to show up, and I'll show you how this becomes relevant. The other thing that I do is the default is 10, but I always have mine set to 20 just so it gives me more results in that first page, just a personal preference. And the last thing is in this bibliography manager. Sometimes the default is the first one. Click on the show links and you get some options here, and what I want you to click on for me is RefWorks. Now I'll show you how to use RefWorks in a separate one, a separate video, but here I just want to show you how it will show up. So save preferences, and there I go. So in this case I'm just gonna pick something that I know something about. So I'm gonna pick gender, science, education, and I search away. And so the first thing what I want to show you is that the results that you get will tell you what type of information this came from. So in this case, this first piece of information came from a book, so that I know that this is from a book chapter. The second one here, this is Journal of Research in Science Teaching, so that one came from a journal. You notice this third one, it just says it's a citation. There's a little mystery as to how Google actually finds all of these pieces of literature, but oftentimes it picks citations as another option. So you get books, you've got journals, and you have citations. The one you're going to pay most attention to are the journals. Sometimes books would be useful, but I think most of what you're going to do, you're going to look at journal articles. And so in this case, I did the search, and you can see that they're not in any particular order. They're not in order by date. They're not in order by cited by. But what I do want to point out is the types of information that you get in these hits. So in this case here, this is from a book. Google has done lots of great things with books, and so if I click on this, it'll actually take me perhaps to the book, and there we go. And so here's the book, and here's the text in there that apparently relates to whatever it is that I was looking for. In some of these books you can read right through them, and others, like for instance there, some pages are omitted. And a nice little neat thing that you can use with books. But again, you're going to be a little bit limited on how much you use books for research. The second one here, gender, race, ethnicity, and science education in middle grades. That actually sounds pretty promising. And if I notice here, there's the author, and there it's from a journal. I have the date. This tells me the database that it came from. And the other information it gives me the times it was cited, and this is somewhat of an indication of the relative importance of this article. What this essentially means is that 136 other journal articles or books have cited this particular article. Now, given that it's from 1995, 15 years have passed, and it makes sense that if it was a good article, it would be cited. But that number is fairly indicative of this being a more influential article. The other information that this gives me on this one, I'll pay attention to this one because it is a journal article, and so it might be more useful, is that the cited by, if I click on the actual article, it will take me to potentially the article. In this case, it takes me to the location of where the article came out of. So this one came from this journal, and this is the journal's website, but if I click on PDF, it's not going to allow me access because they're going to want $30 or something for it. But I can here look at the abstract and read it and decide whether this is something that I want to have or not. Google Scholar will not get all of the articles for you, but will help you locate the articles that are most relevant to you. So one way of doing this is just cutting and pasting perhaps this material, even the abstract, into a Word document. The other thing that you could do is also pull out the citation, but I'm going to show you an easier way to do that in the RefWorks information video. But here's some information. So this might tell me whether this is something I want to look for or is not important. One of the things, just by the way there, is that when I clicked on that, it said it was a 1995 article. Every once in a while you get articles that, journals that republish their articles. In this case, they actually published this online in 2006. There are perhaps two reasons for this. One is that this journal has more recently come online, meaning that I think at this point they have back to about 1998 online. And so some of the things that were dated before that weren't published online, and then this is the date where this became published online. Other times articles will republish an article that is important in the field. And so I'm not sure exactly which one this one is, but don't let that trick you. So there told me something about this article. If I click on this, it's cited by 136 times, this is going to tell me the articles that have cited this. Now, Google Scholar isn't 100% accurate, and no database is 100% accurate. And if you actually go, you can see here that it says it's 136 citation, and if we go back to the original one, it says 136 citations. Sometimes that's not accurate. In this case, what you can see is these are articles. You can see that they're a little bit newer, as they should be. If this one cited the previous article, it should be newer than 1995. In fact, most of these are newer than that. In this case, these articles should all be very strongly related to that original article, because these articles have cited that original article. So even if that first one wasn't all that interest, maybe some of these are. The first one's a book. The second one is from Science Education. It is a journal article. And then I can continue to look down at ones that may or may not be of interest. If I find that's one of interest, for instance, if this one's of interest to me, I can click here to see what the article is and whether it's available or not. In this case, because it's working a little slow, I'm actually going to think it might be. It's not, but let's click on that and see if this comes up. Maybe we'll be lucky. In this case, it doesn't look like we're lucky, although it does seem to be taking its time loading. Now we find this one, and maybe this one is interesting to us, and we then look who cited that one. And maybe we find something right here, and we see that that one is interesting, although it doesn't have gender in its name. It may not have anything to do with gender, so we can actually click on this to see. Let's look in the whole title, and in the keywords, it is not, gender is not in there. So I could read the abstract to see whether it is or is not of interest. And so you can see very quickly you can get lost in journal articles. I'm going to go back to the original. And so this was back in that original page that I had. And so that was one of the original ones, and I clicked on the cited by. So very quickly I can find lots of articles that relate to that. The other thing I can do is hit the link here that says related articles, and these ones should be related to this one in one way or another. They aren't always perfectly related, but they use the same keywords. Now the original article was 1985, and here we're picking some other ones that are also a little bit older. 96 is one that's 2000, but nonetheless this allows us another way to look for related articles. Because I asked you to click on the find it at Mercer and adding the Mercer library, if I click here, this will tell me whether Mercer has it online. It will not necessarily tell me whether it is available. Again, the point of this using Google Scholar isn't to actually get the articles, but to find whether they are or aren't important. And later I'll show you how to find that. This one tells me that there is no full text available for this item, at least according to that database. The other thing I can do is if I click all 4 versions, it shows me different versions of that same initial reference. So there was the original reference with the journal article. This is another reference for it. This is actually from a different database. This here won't help us. This is a database of abstracts that Harvard does. This is from the ERIC database, which won't have it either. And then this is just a citation of it. So none of these seem to look like we can readily access it. However, all is not lost. We get down here and we have this one right here, gender influences, etc., etc. And if I click on this, this is from the journal Science Education, and this should take me just like before. It'll take me to the journal website, and it gives me the abstract. And so perhaps this is one that I'm more interested in. But notice on the side here, it has this link. You can't see the exact link to it, but to the right, when you see the links to the right of articles, oftentimes those are the actual PDF. And so if I click on that right there, if I'm lucky, bingo. This is the article I was just looking at, Gender Differences in Students' Experiences. And I could just save it to my desktop. So I actually found one article. Now, let's say we decided to look at this one. We could do the same thing that we did up above. This one was cited 175 times. So I can click on that, and I can see all the articles that have cited this, and you can see some of them have links to the right of it. So those might be articles that I can readily get. So that helps me out there. So I've showed you the cited by, the related, the find it at Mercer, the all versions. And I'm not going to show you in this video because I'll show it to you on another one, is import and RefWorks. And this will save you a heck of a lot of time, but just notice that that is here. And so that's one real quick way, without using any fancy database or anything, to get nice lists of the articles that you may be interested in by using Google Scholar.